Good day, everyone. I am your future teacher, Ava J. Luna, and this is my co-future teacher, Miss Renelisa Palmieri, and we are going to discuss a new lesson to you in Chapter 4, which is the strengths and weaknesses of the Filipino character, a socio-cultural issue. Let's have first these learning outcomes. At the end of this chapter, the student should be able to discuss the strengths and weaknesses of the Filipino character and cite ways by which schools can counteract the weaknesses of the Filipino character. Schools are there for society. Their relevance is proven by their ability to address socio-cultural problems. So our schools are really built to serve the society and everyone is in it. And one of the roles of the school is really to ensure that students are well informed, the students understand, and the students are able or capable on addressing different social issues that they are facing. So what are these social issues or problems that schools should help address? So we are Filipinos and there are a lot of character that we have to be proud of as a Filipino. But whether we accept it or not, there are also tons of attitudes and values that are to be eliminated in this culture. So we have a number of them, but let's focus on the weaknesses of the Filipino character. The strengths of the Filipino character will also be cited for a balanced presentation. Besides, schools can capitalize on the strengths of the Filipino character to eliminate the weaknesses. So that's why school is there for us to help us whether to strengthen this positive attitude and to help us to get away from negative ones that we practice every day. Before we jump to this juncture, let's have this activity. Let's read this. So here is an excerpt of the report, a moral recovery program, a people building a nation. It is submitted on April 27, 1988 by the task force to President Quezon Aquino, the Senate, and the members of the press by then Senator Leticia Shahane, the moving spirit behind the program. Okay, let's proceed to the main lesson of this chapter, the weaknesses of the Filipino character. This was cited by Senator Leticia Shahani. So ito daw po yung mga weaknesses na di masyado maganda na ugali ng mga Filipino. So let's have first the extreme family-centeredness. So the extreme family-centeredness is an excessive concern for family means using one's office and power to promote family interests and thus functionalism, patronage, political dynasties, and their protection of erring family member. So meaning, a family orientation is a strength. But kapag sinabi po natin na extreme, ito daw po yung sobra naman yung pagmamahal sa pamilya or sa kamag-anak mo. And it becomes weakness already. For example, yung mga desisyon natin is nakabase lang po sa kung ano maganda at maayos para sa pamilya natin. Kahit na nakakasama na pala tayo sa iba. And we tend to neglect the larger part of the community. So kahit sino naman po sa atin, 'di ba? We can do everything to our family, to every member of our family to have a better life and succeed. For example, ikaw po ay nasa posisyon and you have a power to lift up your sibling or the member of your family to be promoted in higher position. At dahil meron ka nga pong power, is magagawa mo yun para sa pamilya mo. So let's have another example. So, nakapanood na po ba kayo ng mga teleserye like The Kadenang Ginto? So, alam naman po natin na si Marga and her family are very rich and her mother is the parent president in her school. So, in order to make Marga to be in top, is binabayaran ng nanay niya yung school or nagdo-donate ng malaking pera sa school. At minsan nga po ay binabantaan na niya ang pamilya na nakakalaban niya sa pagiging top like Cassie, 'di ba? So, 'di ba lahat po ay gagawin para sa anak niya. So sa ganitong sitwasyon po ay Filipinos are very much willing because it extreme family-centeredness. So you are very much to do all possible ways and means for your family to succeed and this can lead to factionalism like paminsan mas inuuna pa ng mga Filipino ang kanilang pamilya. For example is pamilya mo munang unahin mo na mabaksinan. Sila dapat ang makikinabang dyan or sila dapat ang maunang mabigyan ng ayuda at dumarating po sa point na wala ka ng pakialam sa ibang tao. So, this leads to patronage and political dynasties. Itong extreme family-centeredness daw po ay nagali din daw po sa patronage and political dynasties. Di po ba kung atin pong susuriin yung sa politics po natin dito sa Pilipinas, di po ba halos di na mawala-wala ang political dynasties? At ito po ay dahil sa extreme family-centeredness. And as a result po nitong mga halimbawa na ito ay it results in lack of concern for the common good and acts as a block to national consciousness. So, ayan. So, meaning, ito po, you are just focusing on your family betterness and you disregard the good for the general like sa mas marami. So, ito po yung pangit na pag-uugali ng isang Pilipino na karamihan ay meron tayo na kung saan ay mas nakasentro po tayo sa pamilya natin kaysa sa mas nakakarami. Okay po, so let's move on to the next, which is the extreme personalism. So the extreme personalism take things personally. It cannot separate objective tasks from emotional involvement. So ito daw po yung masyado mong pinipersonal yung mga bagay na parang feeling mo lahat ng bagay ay may kinalaman sa iyo. So we Filipinos would take things personally. We take things personally and cannot separate objective tasks from emotional involvement. So, as a Filipino po, it is easy for us to be subjective rather than objective. So, kapag nag-judge po tayo ng isang tao, let's say, friend po natin or malapit po sa atin, so, para po sa atin, i-judge po natin siya or ni-judge po natin siya in a positive way. Kahit alam naman po natin na di ganun ang ugali niya. So, we tend to be subjective and we don't want to be objective. And palaging involved ang emosyon natin sa mga bagay na ginagawa natin. So, just like what I've said before, yung sa example po ng pagiging dapat po ay we should be subjective rather than objective. So, sa ganitong situation po, that's why it's a bit difficult to see things through the lens of objectivity. For example, is sa school po, if there is someone of your classmates give some not so good comments to you, like, ganito sinabi niya ay, hindi daw po maganda yung performance mo kasi dapat ganito daw po yung ginawa mo or ganito or ganyan yung ginawa mo. So, there is a trend that you will take it negatively. Like, sasabihin mo, kaya naman niya sinabi yan kasi inggit lang siya dahil mas magaling ako sa kanya. So, dahil sa pagkakaroon po ng extreme personalism, is di mo na naisip yung positive judgment ng ibang tao at feel mo is negative ito para sa iyo. So, bale, yung opinion po ng ibang tao is inverted sa meron tayo like ang dating palagi nito ay negative. Feel mo pag may ibang sinabi ang ibang tao ay iba din ang dating nito para sa'yo kahit na ito ay opinion lang niya para mas maging better ka. So, di mo siya tinitake as a good opinion but you take it as negative. At ito ay isang extreme personalism and because of this, the Filipino is uncomfortable with bureaucracy, with rules and regulations, and with standard procedures. So he uses personal contacts and gives preference to family and friends and with standards procedure. So, the extreme personalism daw po ay it can lead to the graft and corruption evident in Philippine society. So, for example, here are the politicians who have big projects and ayaw po nilang tumanggap ng opinion and suggestions from the other people dahil iniisip niya na baka inggit lang or gusto siya mas galingan sa project na yun. Like, ang gusto niya sa project na yun is sa kanya lang, siya lang po ang gagawa nun. Like, for example, is sa kalsada po. Yun po ang project ng isang politician na gawin sa isang barangay. So, ang gusto niya po sa project na yun is one-way na kalsada para di gaanong magastos yung budget. But ang gusto po ng ibang kasama niya is, ang gusto pong i-suggest is two-way ang kalsada para mas maganda ang project. But there is a tendency na di po ito tatanggapin ng politician na yun, yung mga opinion po ng mga kasama niya dahil nga sa pagkakaroon ng extreme personalism and it can lead also to the graft and corruption. Okay po? So next to lack of discipline. A lack of discipline is a casual attitude toward time and space. It is manifested in lack of precision and compulsiveness, in poor time management and procrastination. Aversion to following procedures strictly results in lack of standardization and equality control. So ayan, I know you are very familiar with this weakness. At alam kong karamihan po sa atin ay ganito lalo na sa pag-aaral natin. And don't deny it cause I know you are one of these. Like for example, nagbigay po ng activities yung teacher natin and binigyan po tayo ng 1 week bago ang pasan. So alam ko pong lagi po natin sinasabi sa ating sarili na ay bukas na lang tayo magawa kasi malayo pa naman ang deadline. So hanggang dumating na po yung punto or yung time na pasahan na. So, there is a point na nagpo-procrastinate na po tayo dahil sa mindset na malayo pa po ang deadline. So, lagi po natin sinasabi na ipagpabukas na lang ang mga gawain na iyon. At minsan pa nga po may line po tayo na 1 day before the deadline na lang ako gagawa ng activity dahil mas nakakapaggawa pa ako ng maayos pag nagkakraming ako. Alam ko po na isa po kayo sa nagsasabi nito. And because of this, if you have lack of discipline, you can manifest also lack of precision and compulsiveness and poor time management. Dahil nga po sa kawalan ng disiplina sa sarili is nagkakaroon ka na rin ng ibang negative character tulad nito. Like hindi mo na naayos sa mga oras mo kung ano ba ang dapat mong unahin at dahil sa character natin na ganito is yung mga bagay na ating ginagawa is hindi na nagiging maganda or maayos ang kinalalabasan. Ito po yung sinasabi natin na may maipasa lang. For example nga po nito, isa mga activity natin na ginagawa natin in cramming hours. And gumagawa na lang po tayo para may maipasa lang at andun yung mindset na pwede na yan basta may maipasa lang. So, having lack of discipline is nagkakaroon din tayo ng maraming palusot upang maalis lang sa sitwasyon na yon at minsan nakakagawa na rin po tayo ng mga lies dahil lang sa lack of discipline. Like, pag di ka nakapagpasa on time ng activities, isasabihin mo sa teacher mo, ay sorry po sir, ay sorry po ma'am, nagkasakit po ako even though di naman totoo. So, nagiging ningas kugon din po tayo. Like, sa mga unang araw lang po natin ginagawa yung mga activities at sa mga unang araw lang po tayo ginaganahan. So sa mga next days is wala na po tayong gana na gawin ito at wala na po tayong gana na gawin ito ng maayos. So ito po yung tinatawag nating impatience results in shortcuts, palusot, and ningas kugon. So also lack of discipline often results to inefficient work systems, the violation of rules in a casual work ethic, lacking follow-through. Okay po, then let's proceed to the next, which is passivity and lack of initiative. It is waiting to be told what to do, reliance on others or others in government, complacence, lack of a sense of urgency. So ito daw po yung lagi tayo nag-aantay ng iba para utusan kung anong gagawin natin. Kahit naman na kayang-kaya naman po natin gawin ito but still, hindi pa rin po natin ginagawa dahil nga po we wait someone to tell us na gawin niyon. At minsan nga po is para hindi na po natin kayang kumilos nang wala ang iba. So lalo na po kapag nakarely na po tayo doon. So for example, isa gobyerno po. Di po ba sa gobyerno karamihan po sa atin nagdidepende para sa pagkain ng pamilya natin sa gobyerno at iniisip po natin na ang gobyerno will do a lot of things for us. In passivity and lack of initiative, there is also a high tolerance of inefficiency, poor service, and even violations of one's basic right. For example po is sa ating gobyerno. So hindi na kita na po nag-i-initiate ng questions about them lalo na if nakikita po natin na may mali na sa ginagawa nila. So we always let ourselves to think na sila ay nasa higher position. So like po ng mayor, hindi po ba mayor naman sila or congressman, so kaya okay lang at o kaya naman ay natatakot na mapuna po nila even though mali na yung ginagawa nila and medyo against sa inyo yung ginagawa nila, isinayaan na lang po natin ito kasi nga po doon po tayo dumidepende sa mayor na yun or sa congressman na yun. So we become too patient and matiisin and it is too easily resigned to this fate. The Filipino is easily oppressed and exploited. So dahil nga hindi tayo nagrereklamo or nagko-complain about something, for example, inutusan ka sa trabaho nyo bumili ng coffee. And inutusan ka ulit at kinabukasan inutusan ka ulit. At dahil nga hindi po tayo nagrereklamo, ay you became matiisin and you now become a blind follower. Kumbaga, naabuso ka na rin po sa iyong posisyon. So, yan ang magiging result ng pagkakaroon ng passivity and lack of initiative. Okay po, then let's move on to the next, which is the colonial mentality. So the colonial mentality is a lack of patriotism or of an active awareness, appreciation, and love of the Philippines and an actual preference for things foreign. So I know na you are having this also. So ito daw po yung pagmamahal ng mga ibang bagay mula sa ibang bansa. Like mas gusto pa yung mga imported products kesa dito sa Pilipinas. Like the bags na na-produce sa ibang bansa kaysa sa mga gawang Pinoy. So, mas gusto pa yung mga foreign place at foreign things dahil feel po na karamihan po sa ating mga Filipino is feel po na it is very valuable at ang lakas pong makayaman. So, isa na rin po dito is yung mga iPhone po, yan. Imbis po na gawang Pinoy is mas na-appreciate pa po nila yung gawang ibang bansa. Another example po is yung mga trending po ngayon na mga K-pop stops. I know you are very familiar with this. Yung mga K-pop stops po and things, lalo na yung patungkol sa music. Di po ba ngayong panahon maraming baliw na baliw sa K-pop songs and instead na sa P-pop songs or the Filipino pop songs, minsan nga po ay may nabasa ako mga trending memes sa Facebook about this sa mga music ng Pinoy na pangit daw po ang pagkakagawa unlike sa K-pop na pinapakinggan nila. So dito po, mas makikita natin yung love and appreciation ng mga Filipino sa ibang bansa kaysa sa sarili nating bansa, lalo na sa panahon natin ngayon sa Generation Z. And bilang kabataan po, it is sad to see na ganito na po yung ating panahon na kung saan is hindi na po na-appreciate yung mga bagay-bagay na meron tayo dito sa ating bansa at mas na-appreciate pa po nila yung mga bagay na meron sa ibang bansa. So, ang dating po is parang mas naada pa po nila yung mga bagay like music, dance, at yung ibang kultura po ng ibang bansa kaysa sa ating bansa. Okay po, let's move on to the next, which is the kanya-kanya syndrome and talangka mentality. So, itong talangka mentality daw po is ito daw po yung mga taong ayaw makita na umangat yung ibang tao at pilit nating ibinababa or inahatak sila pababa dahil nga po gusto nila na nasa same level lang sila or nasa baba yung tao na yun or sila po yung gustong umangat sa level. So, the kanya-kanya naman po is parang nagiging makasarili na rin at dahil karamihan po sa atin is gusto ng kanya-kanya na gawain or bagay like sa school po, bahay, sa komunidad, sa mga barangay at iba pa. So, this character can be done also by chismis, intriga, and constructive criticism, and it is evident in their personal ambition that is completely insensitive to the common good, the lack of sense of service among people in the government, bureaucracy, and this results in the dampening of cooperative and community spirit and in the trampling upon other rights. Okay po, let's proceed to the next, which is the lack of self-analysis and self-reflection. It is the tendency to be superficial and somewhat flighty. In the days of serious personal and social problems, there is a lack of analysis or reflection and instead satisfaction with superficial explanations and solutions. So ayan, yung lack of self-analysis and self-reflection daw po, is ito daw po yung mga bagay na hindi po natin nagagawa and we are now having lack of self-analysis and reflection in our everyday living like sa buong maghapon po ba ay may nagawa po ba tayong maayos at mabuti? And tama po ba yung desisyon natin na ginawa nung umaga, nung tanghali, or nung hapon? It is like, at the end of the day, need po natin na i-flashback yung mga ginawa po natin sa buong maghapon and have a self-reflection. Like, nagkaroon ka po ba ng away with your nanay, with your kapatid, with your tatay, or with your jowa? At hindi na po natin naisip kung ba't nga po natin nagawa yung bagay na yon, yung makikipag-away, or may nasabi ka po bang masama for her or for him at bakit mo po sinabi yun. So, it is sad to see po and say na karamihan po sa ating mga Filipino na hindi na po nagagawa ito because of having lack of self-analysis and self-reflection. So for example po is sa lesson po ng mga estudyante like us. So sa lesson po namin, on that day natapos po yung 2 subjects na yon with video discussions, and meron pong estudyante na contented na dun sa lesson na yon, sa explanation na yon, and sa discussion na yon. So, kahit hindi naman po talaga yun yung explanation. So, sometimes we tend ourselves to be superficial in handling problems. So, dahil nga po minsan we are afraid to know deeply one thing because we are contented on superficial things. Okay po, then let's move on to the last weaknesses of the Filipino character, which is the emphasis on forma rather than substance. So this lack of analysis and emphasis on form is reinforced by an educational system that is more than substance. So meaning daw po, we focus on our appearance kesa sa intelligence or attitude na meron tayo. So ito daw po yung mindset na okay lang yan, na hindi matalino, at least maganda po. And as of now, in our new generation, ganito ang mindset ng mga kabataang Filipino. Minsan nga po, mas inuuna pa nila yung panlabas na nyo kesa sa attitude at dun sa intellectual na meron ito. So, mayroon pa nga po nagsasabi na okay lang na mataray, at least maganda. And it is sad to say na maraming Filipino ang may ganitong character dahil we only emphasis in forma rather than substance. Another example po is when it comes to teaching. So, some teachers give higher grade to those students na nag-comply po ng projects na maganda yung pagka-present or marami pong design yung project na yun. And minsan nga po, sinasabi pa po ng mga teacher na ay ma-effort yung bata na gawa na yun kahit naman po na yung nilalaman nun or yung nasa loob po ng project na yun or yung content po na yun is have no connected sa lesson na yun. And doon po lumalabas yung emphasis in forma rather than substance. Okay po, let's proceed. So, all of what I've said, yung mga weaknesses po kanina, these weaknesses are rooted in many factors. Sa home, social, economic environment, culture and language, history, religion, educational system, mass media, leadership, and role models. Change is possible. So, however, and the following goals are proposed to develop in the Filipino. First is a sense of patriotism and national pride. Second is a sense of common good. Third, a sense of integrity and accountability. Fourth, a values and habits of discipline and hard work. Fifth, the value and habits of self-reflection and analysis, internalization of spiritual values, and the emphasis on essence rather than on form. It is according to Shahani Leticia, in 1988, a moral recovery program, Building a People, Building a Nation. Okay, let's have this analysis. So let's analyze. So do you agree with the findings? Why or why not? Explain your answer. Second, according to the report, one weakness of the Filipino character is lack of analysis and emphasis on form or forma. So the report states that this lack of analysis and emphasis on form are enforced by an educational system that is more form than substance. So what is meant by an educational system that is more firm than substance? Do you agree that the Philippine education system is more firm than a substance? If yes, why? And if not, why not? So share your answer with the group. Okay, let's proceed to the next. Let's have this abstraction and let's conceptualize. So this topic contains the strengths of the Filipino character, and this will be discussed by Miss Renelisa Palmieri.
Good day everyone, I'm Renelisa Palmiere and this is the continuation of our report. Abstraction, let's conceptualize. The Filipino character, strengths and weaknesses. Senator Leticia Shahani submitted to the Senate this report titled, A Moral Recovery Program, Building a People, Building a Nation. This report cites the strengths of the Filipino character. Number 1, pakikipagkapwa-tao. Opening yourself to others and feel one with others with dignity and respect. Deal with them as a fellow human being. sense of fairness and justice, concern for others, ability to empathize with others, helpfulness and generosity in times of need, practice of bayanihan or mutual assistance, sensitive to others' feeling, pakikiramdam, and trust or pagtitiwala. Number 2, family orientation. Filipino possess a genuine and deep love for family. One's main commitment and responsibility, honor and respect given to parents and elders, the generosity towards king in need and a great sacrifices once endure for the welfare of the family, a sense of trust and security. Number 3, joy and humor. Filipinos have a cheerful and fun-loving approach to life and its up and down, pleasant disposition, a sense of humor, and propensity for happiness that contribute not only the Filipino charm but also to the Filipino spirit. We laugh at those we love and hate. We tend to make joke about our good and even bad fortune, to smile even in the most trying of times. The result is certain emotional balance and optimism and the respect for power and office. Number 4, flexibility, adaptability, and creativity. We can adjust and adapt to circumstances and the surrounding environment, both physical and social. Adjust to whatever happens, even in unplanned or anticipated events. Filipino are also known in having an ability to make new things of old scrap. Makikita natin na kahit itatapon na ang isang bagay, nakakagawa pa rin ng isang bagay na galing sa basura ang mga tao. Number 5, hard work and industry. We have the capacity for hard work given proper condition to raise one's standards living and to possess the essential of a decent life for one's family. We are willing to take risks with jobs abroad. Number 6, faith and religiosity. Filipinos have deep faith in God. Our innate religiosity enable us to comprehend and genuinely accept reality in the context of God's will and plan. Number 7, abilities to survive. Filipinos have an ability to survive and make do with what is available in the environment. With basic optimism, flexibility, adaptability, hard work, and a deep faith in God, millions of Filipinos can overcome many tragedies and disaster in their life. There is so much good in the Filipino, but so much need to be changed too. Many of our strengths as a people are also sources of our weaknesses. Shahana Report 1988 explained that family orientation become in group orientation that prevent us from reaching out beyond the family, the larger community and nation. Kung mapupunan ninyo, minsan ang family ties ang nagiging hindrance para maabot ng isang tao ang kanyang goal sa buhay. Kasi masyado na silang nakadepende sa opinyon ng family. Pag sinabi ng family na no, we just sit and listen and do nothing. In our personalism, we are warm and caring, but this led us to lack of objectivity. We are concerned with the people we know but unfair to people we don't know. As you can notice, we the people are generous and soft-hearted when it comes to our family and relatives. We are always willing to help. However, when it comes to other people, we became selfish. If other people is asking for a help, we just ignore them in a reason of lagi nating sinasabi na bakit nating tutulungan ng isang tao na hindi natin kakilala. This is the mindset of Filipinos na nakatatak na sa pagkatao ng bawat isa. In our flexibility, we compromise precisions and discipline. We are joyful people with a sense of humor, but we cannot take things with humor all the time, for serious problem needs serious analysis. Filipino, one of strength is pagiging masayahin. For instant na lang is pag nakaranas na tayo ng malakas na bagyo or kahit anong mga sakuna, makikita nyo pa rin ang pagiging positive ng isang tao. Our faith in God is our source of strength, but this makes us dependent on forces outside us. Do nothing that make us submissive to God's will. Dito papasok yung saying na nasa Diyos ang awa, nasa tao ang gawa. Dapat tayong mga tao ang gagawa ng paraan at hindi iahas sa himala ang lahat ng mangyayari. We are good at pakikipagkapwa-tao and so we can easily empathize, but we can at the same time be envious of others. Part of human nature ang mainggit sa kapwa. We can be hardworking and yet can be lazy and passive in a workplace. Value education and schools. Senator Shahani's report was given in 1988. but its finding as reported may still be true today. The Department of Education has its vision to help develop Filipino who passionately love their country and whose values and competencies enable them to realize their potential and contribute meaningful to building the nation. It has core values, maka-Diyos, makatao, makakalikasan, and makabansa. This can be uphill battle for Philippine school to realize this, considering the first, extreme family-centeredness, second, extreme personalism, third, lack of discipline, fourth, passivity and lack of initiative, fifth, colonial mentality, 6. Kanya-kanya syndrome, talangka mentality. 7. Lack of self-analysis and self-reflection. And last, emphasis on forma rather than substance. So, it will not be more form than substance. As described in Senator Shahani's report, Philippine schools have to intensify values education in the curriculum. In fact, in response to this report, Values Education, now Edukasyon sa Pagpakatao and K-12 curriculum, was introduced as a separate subject in the basic education curriculum under the Values Education Framework Program of Dr. Lourdes Casimbing, then Department of Education, Culture and Sport Secretary in 1988 to 1990. The Values Education Framework was conceptualized in 1987. And 2002, the Basic Education Curriculum, Grade 1 to 6, and 1st to 4th year high school integrated values in the major learning areas or subject. Beginning with the K-12 curriculum in 2013, Values Education was renamed Edukasyon sa Pagpapakatao, ESP, for Grade 1 and 10. In the senior high school curriculum, Grades 11 to 12, there is no course with the title Values Education or Edukasyon sa Pagpapakatao, but core courses such as Introduction to the Philosophy of Human Person and Personal Development are in essence Values Education subject themselves. Application. Let's apply. Number 1, teacher observes that when students submit report, the more ornate and artistic the folder is, the less substantial the report. Which weakness in the Filipino character is pointed to? If you were the teacher, how do you counteract such? Number 2, in line with the government's austerity program, DepEd reiterates the following policies. Letter A, graduation rights should be simple but meaningful to encourage civil rights, a sense of community, and personal responsibility. While these rights marks a milestone in the life of the learner, this should be conducted without excessive expending, extravagant attire, or extraordinary venue. Letter B, moving up or completion ceremonies shall be simple, involving only the learner, their parents, and the school. And letter C, non-academic projects such as attendance to field trip, film showing, junior-senior promenade, and other school events should not be imposed as a requirement for graduation or completion. DepEd Order Number 2, Series and 2019. Which of the weaknesses of the Filipino does this DepEd Order wish to help eliminate? Explain. Number 3. In a post-observation conference, school head cites points for improvement for the teacher observed. It happens that there are more points for improvement than positive points. Teacher conclude the school head is biased against her. Which Filipino weakness is revealed? What should be done? And number 4, what should be done in the Philippine basic education system so that it more substance than form? Number 5, cite instances where number 1, extreme family-centeredness, number 2, lack of discipline, number 3, passivity and lack of initiative, 4th, colonial mentality, 5th, kanya-kanya syndrome, talangka mentality, 6. Lack of self-analysis and self-reflection are manifested in Philippine society. Explain how school can help counteract such negative traits. Number 6. Based on Senator Shahani's report, Chapter 4, as written by Patricia B. Licoanan, once chairman of the Commission on Higher Education of the Philippines, schools have been contributed to the development of Filipino passivity and lack of critical thinking. Aside from the influences of the formal curriculum, There are the influences of the hidden curriculum. Example, the values taught informally by the Philippine school system. Schools are highly authoritarian with the teacher as central focus. The Filipino student is taught to be dependent on teacher. So he attempts to record verbatim what the teacher says and to give this back in its original form with little processing during examination. Teachers reward well-behaved and obedient. Students are uncomfortable with those who ask questions and express different viewpoints. Critical thinking is not learned in school. Let's check for understanding. Number 1. List the weaknesses of the Filipino character. Explain each in a sentence. Number 2. List the strengths of the Filipino, then in a praise or clause, explain when this strength become weakness. On the table below, on the first column, write the strength, and the second column, it becomes a weakness when. Let's reflect. Which of the weaknesses of the Filipino character applies to you? Have schools helped you to counteract such weakness? Let clinchers. Number 1. How can a school help fight the Filipino lack of analysis? Letter A. Do teaching to the test. Letter B. Give out of context drill. Letter C. Make students solve problems. And letter D. Let students write their observation. Number 2. When does the Filipino's faith and religiosity became a weakness? Letter A. When he does nothing to help himself and waits for God to save him. Letter B. When he totally submits himself to God's will after done all he could. Letter C. When he forgives his enemies and so appears weak. Letter D. When he prays every day and every night. Number 3. What's wrong with the Filipino sense of humor? Letter A. When he always joyful. Letter B. When he even serious things are not taken seriously. Letter C. When he takes things lightly. Letter D. When his jokes are corny. Number 4. Which Filipino weakness is proven in his penchant for diploma? Letter A. Forma over substance or essence. Letter B. Love for education. Letter C. Desire for upward mobility. Letter D. Patriotism. Number 5. What does teacher encourage when she look at students' question in class as indicator of inattentiveness? Letter A. Critical thinking. Letter B. Love for study. Letter C. Passivity. And letter D. Pakikisama.